Hi, everyone. Today we have Keaton Beesey from Greater Vancouver Tenant and Property Management joining us to give us some insights and knowledge about the whole world of property management and probably some hints and things that investors specifically make mistakes on. Welcome, Keaton. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business background.
Yeah, thanks, Roland. Glad to be here. A little bit about myself is very recently married. So on October 3rd, got to make sure to put that in the calendar for next year, right? Recently married, living in Burnaby and working out of the home office. And professional background, I've been licensed for about 8 years now as a property manager. In the last 3 as a managing broker with the Real Estate Council of BC. When I was employed, so I'm the owner of this company. When I was employed, I worked with Gateway Property Management as a director of property management across, we had 3 satellite offices, about 15 property managers, and about 5,000 units or doors or strata lots and rental properties under management. So got to see a lot of things there. So it was a great experience. But then that brought me to opening up my own shop.
Very cool. So do you provide, what kind of services are you providing now? That full gamut as well, or?
We do a full service. So we try to make it really simple for people. So we just offer 2 services. We're focusing on taking care of the consumer real estate investors. So I make things easy for people so that we can take care of them and they can go off and make more money doing what they do in their life, and take their time and enjoy themselves. So we offer leasing or full service management. And our full service management is tied in with leasing as well. So if you give us a vacant property or an occupied one, we can fill it up for you and then manage it, or we can just fill it up and toss you the keys and leave it to you. With the full service, the leasing side of things is meant to be full service as well. So lots of our clients that just do the leasing don't even really talk to the tenants for the first 6 months until they, check in and say, oh yeah, right, I got this tenant, and they want to go down there and see how things are going. So yeah, it's meant so you have to do as little work as possible as the homeowner. Very
cool. Very cool. Why do you think some investors don't hire a property manager and they seem to do it themselves?
There's going to be some people that the numbers just don't fit in their spreadsheet. So they have their dream of whatever's going to go on in property management. Why would I do it when I could do it myself? And we respect that, of course. We want to make sure people can get in there and learn. If we weren't learning in this business, we wouldn't be doing it either. It's no fun if you're not learning. So some people doesn't fit in their spreadsheet. But I think the main thing that really came from the market is that people can't find a reliable and fairly priced service provider to just take care of for them, or they just give up, or they've just heard bad things, so they don't even try.
So would you say that most of your clients who are investors earlier in their pathway, they might have managed the property themselves before working with you?
Some are brand new landlords. Okay. Yeah, but most, if they have any, have 1, maybe 2 doors.
And have you had any clients work with you and then go back to managing the property themselves, or that just doesn't happen once they experience, you taking that off their plate?
We have. Some will go, a full year or 18 months and then move off just because everything is going so well. Yeah. And we're happy with that. If we work together with the client full service for 1 year, we're happy if they're happy and they can go on. Chances are what ends up happening is that, the tenant moves out, on average every 3 years in Greater Vancouver. And at that mark, they give us a call back and have us re-rent it out. And then they, had a kid or they bought another property, and so they need more help anyways at that time. So it doesn't matter if we get you once, we'll get you for life. And if you can take care of yourself and you've listened and learned, then by all means, get out there and help other people manage their properties as well.
Very cool. And on that note, what are some of the things you wish you knew years ago when you were just getting started that you know now?
I've got my notes here, so I started writing down a couple of things. But the main one was that I just kind of said none, because if I already knew all the answers, this would be no fun, kind of like I was saying earlier. When I first started this business, started from scratch or from the very bottom, no doors or clients or anything. And, a couple of the first clients were excellent and a couple were those kind of clients and nightmare clients. And I just realized you got to scrape the bottom of the barrel until it turns into a tube, and then you can see right through it, and everything's a lot easier at that point. But just making sure we're getting everything in writing and people understand what's going on. Otherwise, they just get angry and upset. And that goes for, homeowner clients being served by a property manager, or with, landlords and tenants. If everybody knows what's going on up front and their expectations are managed, then everything works out a lot better. Like we had at Gateway, we had so much other things that went on that I learned a lot of stuff in a concentrated period of time. And that really helps kind of launch the business. So from the start of the business, it's just making sure people's expectations are managed for sure.
Totally. What are kind of the biggest mistakes that you've inherited when you take over, and investors or landlords that you see many of them repeating with their tenants?
They're not managing. Let's see here. They're not really managing their own expectations. Okay. And what ends up happening is they get really frustrated with, minor things that, is going to cost them money. And they'll kind of feel like whenever they get a phone call from a tenant, the tenant's trying to take money from them when they don't realize that this is something they signed up for to begin with. So like a restaurant owner doesn't get pissed off every time somebody rings in an order for a hamburger, because the hamburger costs them $3 to make and then they sell it for $15. Oh, I got to pay this $3 to make sure the 15's coming in. It's like, it's harder to see that as a landlord. But that's really what they have to build in and really think about when they get to work on their own properties. And just, if they've already made that decision, serving the tenants is a lot easier to do. And you got to remember, these tenants are customers, regardless of what you may think or see.
Do you guys do walkthroughs periodically on properties, or how do you manage the process once a tenant seems to be paying the rent and is in the property?
Yeah, so notwithstanding the move in and move out inspections, which are, all, detailed and documented with photos and all those kind of things, those are included in our full service and our leasing services. But we also include biannual inspections, so every 6 months during the term of management of the property. And we suggest that doesn't matter if the tenant's in there in their first year or their 10th year. People do change, situations change, property degrades. There's a lot of really good tenants out there that don't really know when there is a problem. There could be a minor leak and they haven't really noticed it because it's behind a bunch of stuff. But as an experienced property manager, you can kind of walk into a place and smell something pretty quickly, or you just know that there's a cabinet that's a little bit more swollen somewhere. And just having this professional experience of seeing thousands of units, you're able to kind of poke in and really see what's going on there to make sure that the client's property is taken care of and the homeowner's property is taken care of. And just because it's a good tenant doesn't mean they're a knowledgeable tenant with what's going on. And the reasonable person has to understand that as a tenant, but it's not required if it's a bit of an unreasonable, weird thing. So we include those biannual inspections in our services.
It's a really key thing I think you bring up, because you automatically assume it's just a good tenant is the only variable, when you can have a good tenant that is letting a problem escalate in an apartment that's going to cause a really big issue. And if you didn't, if just a biannual inspection could catch it, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Do you guys do credit checks with candidates that you're interviewing?
Yeah, oh yeah, and we'll look at a credit score. We're always curious as to what Equifax and TransUnion think, but at the end of the day, we're really interested in their credit utilization. So there's a percentage there that shows how much credit the tenant has already, or the applicant has already kind of utilized. So some people are like 85% or 65%, where that really only they're showing that they're not only using credit quite a bit, but are also close to the amount that even a bank or somebody would lend them. And you're a landlord and you're essentially, you're almost lending something to them. You're signing up for a year or however long for this person, so you want to make sure they can actually afford things. If their life changes or anything comes up. We also look at the credit history. So are they making their payments on time? And more often than not, there's a lot of people that have paid every single bill every single month on time forever. And those are the people that we're looking for. It's not just, oh, I paid my rent. Of course, you're going to pay your rent before you pay your credit card bill, because the credit card company can just kind of sue you later, but it's harder to get evicted. But we want to make sure that tenant has a sustainable lifestyle and they can actually enjoy the property. Because what ends up happening at the end of your tenancy, the tenants are there shaking hands with the new ones coming in. Oh yeah, these guys are great and everything's fun and happy, versus them scrambling and not being able to clean the place up, not being able to afford a moving company, and then they're late and you can't move the tenant in on time. And it's just, you want the whole person to be really tied up and really sturdy. And that's what, there's tons and tons of people out there that are like that. So we screen, that's just a portion of the screening, but the credit check is a big one for sure.
Really good point there. Would you say that since you're, renting so many units, do you sometimes see the same applications come in that you've deemed not acceptable for your clients, and so you're instantly a security blanket for your clients because you kind of know some of the challenged tenants that keep applying?
We don't see many frequent applications from the same people, but applications, there's a lot of them that look the same when they do come through. We also don't receive applications, screen them, and then show them all to the clients. There's plenty of applications that our clients will never even see because we wouldn't accept them into our own home. And if our clients have a problem with that, then we can terminate and they can move on to some other company because we're here to give professional advice. And if we wouldn't put a tenant into our own property, then we wouldn't put it into theirs.
Very good. How do you go about determining market rent?
Multiple things, but we do look at mainly through the perspective of tenants. We don't really look at it, as a landlord, how much money can I get? It's more of what are the tenants looking at? What does the market look like this week or this month or this year from a tenant perspective? What a lot of people forget is that tenants are generally new to the market every single time, and they don't have a realtor walking with them to walk them through what's going on in the market. There are a lot of people who've been sitting around, waiting for doomsday and rents, cut in half and that kind of stuff. But most people, when they do move, they need to move, whether the owner's selling the property, whether they had a kid and or their family's growing, or they're getting a divorce, or they're getting together. And so these are all new customers every single time. And even just over the last 2 or 3 years, the marketing platforms online have changed so much that somebody who was really good and knew it 3 years ago is now coming into a brand new thing all over again. So we really focus on what the apps look like and through the lens of the prospective tenant. So we have been offering free tenant coaching to kind of understand that more as well. So tenants will come to us with problems. These are tenants that are not applying for our clients' homes, obviously. But we'll have tenants come to us with problems, and we'll kind of see how they're looking at the market, how they're using their apps, and kind of guide them in a way that's more effective and a better way to kind of find properties that are going to fit their location, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. But it's really given us an idea as to how they are using the apps. And then that helps us price homes based on obvious things like competitive listings in the area or in the building, especially a new building. But we also have to look at our tenants or our clients' financial obligations as well. But it's mainly to do with the competing properties and then stuff that we already have, in our portfolio, because you're just as good as the last tenant that moved in at your last market rent.
Very good. What advice would you have for investors that are still managing their own properties?
Plan that every year you'll have your worst and most expensive repair and vacancy year, and then you'll be a lot happier when that doesn't end up happening. And just treat tenants like customers. Assume they're looking out for your property when they call you. There's very few and far between if tenants or customers, any business that are there to take advantage of you. If you feel that way, you should get out of owning a business altogether. And you need to understand that when you buy a rental property, you are opening a business. It's a large percentage of your net worth. So look at it that way and take it seriously rather than just getting into the property market and renting something out and then just expecting somebody to live there because it's property and you live in, Vancouver, assuming we're speaking to many people in BC.
Very good. I don't think you have a problem of having too many tenants fall behind on rent, but what are some of the best practices if someone should find themselves with, they think they did the best due diligence, but they have a tenant that seems to be falling behind on rent? What would you suggest?
Unfortunately, the same thing if we'll go back to the restaurant example, because my previous life experience, but if somebody's not paying for their food, for example, you leave the restaurant, don't come back. And unfortunately, eviction is something that we would go at very straightforward and very quickly. If you're not paying the rent, that's the first thing that you agreed to do in a lease. A lease is pointless if you don't pay your rent. It sounds a little bit heavy-handed, but at the end of the day, if somebody can't afford their housing, they need to find other housing. And the amount of stress and anxiety and things that those people go through before they reach out and say, hey, I can't pay my rent, or just their checks bounce and they know it's going to bounce, is way worse than the stress and anxiety that any landlord is going through if they own a property like that in most cases. So we would move forward with eviction, and 9 times out of 10, all you have to do is threaten it. and people will kind of come to you and understand that they need to move on. And as long as you're, graceful and helpful in that process, you're going to end up getting quite a bit of your money back. The tenants actually clean up the place and leave it vacant, nice for you to re-rent. And if you haven't built those things into your plan anyways, then again, you shouldn't be in the business. But if they are behind on rent, you move forward immediately with a 10-day notice for eviction and go forward with it. But if you feel like, it's a mistake, or they, they're really struggling, you want to talk to them about it, then go ahead and do that. But you need to do your paperwork, because if you get stuck in a jam and you want to go forward later after they've paid late 3 or 4 months in a row, the RTB might not enforce an eviction on that either. But we do definitely suggest moving forward with eviction.
And is that something you help your clients kind of work their way through if it gets to that point for some reason?
Yep, full service management, our RTB hours and filing and everything is on the house. It's free, and it gives our clients a lot of peace of mind that we'll take care of that for them. But it's so few and far between, especially with our screening processes and everything, that we can just offer it for free.
Awesome. Very cool. I know you for a little bit now. I've seen a lot of growth in your business. So for the folks that might not know you yet, what are kind of your goals with your business over the next few years? Where do you want to take it?
By the end of next year, we should have a full-time property manager on staff, so we can take care of, so somebody can manage the active portfolio, so the repairs and maintenance, tenant inquiries, those kind of things, and that'll really help us tighten up the portfolio and help take on new landlord clients and help more people, create sustainable tenancies and housing situations. So that's the end of next year. 3 and 5 year, not specifically a 3, but a 5. Definitely in the next 5 years, want to work on a joint venture project to buy some multifamily buildings. Most of the reason we have a property management company is to start helping people who, own a strata lot and they rent it out, to have them understand what multifamily apartment buildings look like in those numbers. And not only that, but the consistency of cash flow and how things are affected when a tenant moves out of their strata lot versus an apartment building. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there for investors to get into apartment buildings as a joint venture versus just owning an individual strata lot.
Very cool. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us that I might not have stirred out of you yet with regards to property management and what you're doing in that world?
No, I think we covered everything. I don't know if I have any more notes here. No, I think I'm good. I mean, the main thing I think would say with just the whole COVID and lockdowns and stuff, the market is changing, but don't just think that it's all, ho-hum, it's going downhill. We are talking to some clients right now about, the market rents that we're seeing, they are reducing, and the applications coming in aren't as strong at that, higher rate anymore. But we are keeping an eye out and making sure that we're, getting great tenants and they can still afford the rent. And there's plenty of people out there that can still pay, proper market rent. So anybody out there really struggling, worried about their tenant moving out soon, or they've gotten notice or something, just take a look out there, pay attention. The situation's rough and some people have had a tough go right now, but it's not doom and gloom. It's not even close. And we're still renting properties all the time. So
kind of from the height, let's say January, of a newish 1-bedroom downtown to maybe where we are now, what's the adjustment that you've experienced in the rent price?
We're seeing, I would say a small 1-bedroom downtown, we would be renting those last year, August, for $2,200. I just sent out an assessment this morning on a very similar property for $1,895, but we're letting the client know they should be expecting just above $1,700 if we do have to bring it down. I just did a quick look today, just kind of opened up Facebook Marketplace and hit it, and there were 700 competing 1-bedroom listings. So there are a lot of properties available, especially downtown, for rent. And you really just got to catch it on the way down. But it's just really about making sure your ad stands out and get professional photographs and all that kind of stuff as well. But the market is definitely softening, and it's softening at kind of a bad seasonal time as well, where it's, after Labor Day, the rental market really slows down. But in Vancouver, it's always been quite busy anyways. But we're kind of hitting the, deferral cliff and all the changes in EI and government support. At the same time, the seasonal activities kind of falling off as well. So, yeah.
All kind of hits at the same time. It keeps
yeah, buddy.
In closing, tell us something that very few people know about you.
Very few people know about me.
Legal, and you can talk about it.
Yeah. I think probably the nerdiest thing is that I reached out to a professor at UBC who does a lot of stuff in the news and everything, just because I wanted to talk to him about, you know, the general economy and everything. And we got on pretty well, had a coffee, and he ended up, I asked him what he teaches his students. He's, oh, you know, he listed some of the curriculum, and one of the items was the history of the mortgage. And I was very interested in it, so he was kind enough to send it to me over PDF. And I went to bed reading that, but it kept me up versus putting me to sleep. That's probably the nerdiest thing that I can possibly think of that nobody really knows about me.
No, fair enough. And in closing, once we get to travel again, post-COVID, where's the first place you're going to?
We're going to Italy, man. We went away to Fino last week. To make it easy for people, we told them it was our honeymoon, but it is not our honeymoon. Our honeymoon will be a month in Italy, go get some Barolo wine and do some pasta cooking classes and sit on the beach and hang out. And we're looking forward to that because we didn't have the big wedding. The money's already just sitting there. So it's just got to get over there. Let me go.
Nice, man. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing your time with us today. And I hope that some people reach out to you and connect on some of their property management needs that they might better utilize their time elsewhere and have you take it over for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to. Thanks so much, Roland.
Thanks, Keaton. Take care.